Hi guys, Sarah Belcher here, coming to you from Newport Beach. I wanted to get on here and do a little community immunity presentation for you. So there's a lot of stuff going around in the media right now. I wanted to chat about some simple things that you can do that they're maybe not even talking about in the national press. Some of you guys are pretty switched on, so you may have heard of some of these things, but I wanted to kind of summarize it for you today. So I will share my screen, and what we will do here is start. Let's see. Okay, we're going to talk about hangovers. Okay. So, community immunity program. What are we going to do during these coronavirus times? It's been a very difficult few weeks, what now, 5 or 6 weeks for all of us. And I wanted to really just talk to you about what immunity actually is and how important it is for us, of course, right now, but how important it is for many diseases that I deal with patients, and how these lifestyle concepts actually connect with our immune system. So our immune system, we're going to jump on here and talk a little bit about what it is. We're going to discuss athletes and the effects of exercise on immunity, a little bit about white blood cells. We're going to talk about emotion and how it affects you, and how fasting can help you. Also, exercise in general, different levels of that, and autoimmunity. For those people out there right now who have autoimmune disease, they're very fearful, and sort of how to prevent autoimmunity. We're going to talk about sleep and how that is my number one recommended supplement. People are asking me about supplementation. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but we're definitely going to talk a lot about sleep, and of course hydration, as well as what supplements are coming out in the research to be proven to be helpful in this situation. And then of course nutrition, not last but not least. Food is where it's at. Always food first is how we should be thinking. So let's talk about the immune system and basically what it is. It's obviously our ultimate line of defense. And there really is an external immune system and an internal immune system. What we're hearing about in the media right now is a lot about your external immune system. So we're talking about skin, we're talking about trying to protect your mucous membranes, so things like your eyes and your mouth and your nose. We don't want to get infections into those, so everyone's wearing masks and gloves, and we're washing our hands, which is absolutely important, and we should continue to do this often. What we don't really hear a lot about is the internal immune system, which is our immune cells. And I like to describe this a bit like a military. Okay, so we have, the captains, we have infantry, we have snipers, and basically your immune system is very similar to that in the sense that each white blood cell has its own job. And first line defense is the phagocytes, which basically identify and exterminate things. They engulf them. Okay, so they come along a bit like Pac-Mans. They identify foreign invaders and they will engulf them and destroy them, which is very similar to our natural killer cells, which can identify and produce cytotoxins to destroy those cells, especially those that are virus-infected cells. And also have a big role in cancer cells. Cancer cells are divisions of cells that have basically gone wrong, and natural killer cells help to destroy those and prevent cancer. So we want to be trying to increase those anyway. That's part of health. So the second line is the T cells, which receive messages from the first line cells, and they basically tag the enemies, and then inform what we call B cells, and those B cells produce antibodies and they store memory. So if we ever get exposed to that virus again, we can have a memory cell that will produce many antibodies very rapidly to that. So that second exposure is what really creates our immunity. And these guys are in lots of different places in the body. They're in our tonsils, thymus, they're in our lungs, definitely in our intestines, which we're going to dive a little bit more into later. And they're produced in the bone marrow, in our long bones, and they circulate in the cells. And they, particularly the natural killer cells, will respond to these virus infected cells, which if you do get infected, that's what we want to be trying to boost. So people again ask me about what's my number one supplementation, what can I take right now? I think that the first and the top supplement is sleep. We need to be sleeping a lot. So I'm encouraging those of you that can actually have a bit of a sleep in, then to actually do so. Try and use this time to catch up on your sleep. It's very, very healing for many things. So it is the number one factor to improve our immune system. Sleep is incredibly important. And what happens when we sleep is our melatonin, which is a hormone produced by our pineal gland, increases at night, which then makes us fall asleep. And it's been shown that melatonin will actually boost natural killer cells. So we can think about supplementation, but we want to be trying to induce natural sleep as much as possible. And if you think about it, when we get sick, all we want to do is sleep. We're tired and we have this viral load where our body is working incredibly hard and we want to sleep. And that's a reason for that. Melatonin increases, we want to sleep because that's where our bodies have time to heal. Now, there are people who don't sleep very well. Many people come to me with sleeping problems. They wake up in the night, and this can be something we call hypoglycemia, which is basically a drop in blood sugar. And the ability to control blood sugar has many, many repercussions on many diseases. Obviously, diabetes is one of them, but also cancer too, and various other chronic diseases such as cardiovascular disease and things like that. So if you're waking up at night, you want to really be checking your blood sugar with your doctor and, doing a fasting glucose level and fasting insulin, which will tell you how hard your pancreas is working. People wake up at night to go pee, obviously it depends on how much you drink later into the evening, but also it can be to do with your pelvic floor. Pelvic floor strength is a big thing. Prostate issues are a big thing. So you want to be checking those things so that you get some quality sleep. Again, if you're not sleeping properly, we've got to find out the root cause of what's going on with you to try and determine what we can do to help you with that. And how much, some people say, oh, I don't need much sleep. We have found with the research that getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep is really preferable. This can help with things like your brain function and memory. We know that there's a sweet spot around 7 to 8 hours where the amyloid in your brain will be swept out. So that helps to prevent things like late onset Alzheimer's disease. And obviously there's more factors that influence that, but it can help that. Trying to go to bed earlier is good. Trying to go to bed at the same time and get up at the same time so your body gets into this natural diurnal rhythm that it's used to sleeping at a certain point. And then also thinking about things to help you, such as melatonin supplementation, depending on making sure that you don't have any other problems for not taking melatonin. And then looking at possibly white noise that can help, ocean sounds or chirping birds or crickets or whatever you like, can help you to improve sleep. And then there's a lot of more things that improve your sleep, such as gravity blankets, cooling blankets. We've seen those help with some patients. So consider trying some different things and try and get your sleep as well high quality as you can. So a couple of research papers here, circulating melatonin decreases with age. That's sometimes because our pineal gland can calcify as we get older and it doesn't produce as much melatonin. And it's found to, stimulate these natural killer cells and improve immune function in aging. And there has been some talk that, you know, the elderly population is more at risk because they have a decline in immune function because of melatonin as well. So we want to be trying to think again about how can we improve this and consider some melatonin supplementation. It can be therapeutic and enhance immune function in aged individuals and patients with an immune compromised state. So we want to be looking at melatonin for autoimmunity as well. So let's go on to supplements. People ask me a lot about this, and obviously vitamin C is really good. It's been found to improve natural killer cells, and that's absolutely what we want. So vitamin A, C, and D are the best. Those are the things you should be really looking at. And we'll talk about some foods in a minute. Flavonoids, super important. You can find those in things like tea and citrus fruits and berries and apples. They're basically plant pigments. So anything that is very brightly colored, you know, I suggest people eat the colors of the rainbow. That's what we should be trying to do. So as much brightly colored food as you can get on your plate, definitely fruits and vegetables are going to help that. You know, these plant pigments also help reduce cancer risk. They improve asthma. They help with reducing stroke risk by improving cardiovascular function. And vitamin A and C and D, as we talked about before. Vitamin A, you want to be getting in your meats and your organ meats, your fish, sweet potatoes, carrots, dark leafy greens, and of course vitamin D we want to be looking at and trying to get that from sun. And if we are in the more northern parts, or if you're in England, where I'm from, you're not going to get as much sun right now, so you want to be basically supplementing with that. And we will talk about that and dive deeper a bit later into that. Be careful about botanicals. There are some people saying that, you know, we should be doing a lot of elderberry and other different types of herbal supplementation. You want to be careful with herbal supplementation because it could be pretty potent and can kind of give you symptoms that maybe you might not want. Echinacea is basically the most supported in this. And then we want to be improving our lung barrier. You know, we want to get your lungs as strong as possible, and using and eating higher sulfur foods and cruciferous vegetables will help to stimulate that and increase glutathione. Now, glutathione is like the major antioxidant in the body and has been shown to support many, many different processes. How much you actually produce depends very much on your genetics. But so we want to be trying to eat those high sulfur foods as much as possible. And then short chain fatty acids. So these support the immune system, and rather than supplementating with short chain fatty acids, you really want to be thinking about increasing the fiber in your diet and diversify in your foods. So basically the short chain fatty acids are produced by the friendly bacteria in your gut. And then these are used to basically fertilize those cells. So it's the main source of energy for those cells in your intestines and in your gut. So we want to be eating higher fiber if we can. So what we call prebiotics, which is the food for bacteria, helps to produce these short chain fatty acids, which will then in turn boost your immunity. Any questions, guys, please reach out to me, DM me, and I'm happy to answer anything for you. Again, another study looking at natural killer cell stimulation by using vitamin C and aloe vera juice. Aloe vera juice, again, can be very nourishing to your gut, and we want to be thinking about gut function when we're thinking about immunity. And in fact, for really any disease, we have to always start in the gut. That's a big part of functional medicine, and our approach is to basically try and improve gut function because it's going to in turn improve all of the other systems that are related to that. And vitamin C and aloe vera juice can really help your natural killer cells become more potent, if you like, to help improve immunity. And we'll talk about a drink later on that you can add to your daily routine that's going to help that. Again, vitamin A deficiency, we want to be looking at trying to bump that up with those foods such as the fish and the eggs and the meats. If not, if you don't eat those things, then sweet potatoes, carrots, and leafy greens, you can look these things up too. There's a good website called Food Data, which will help you to determine exactly what kinds of foods that you can eat. There are apps that you can get that will tell you what minerals and vitamins you're getting from the foods that you're eating and whether you're hitting your recommended daily amount. So I encourage you guys to kind of explore that a little bit and see where you are lacking, if you like, because most of us lack vitamins not only because we don't have a big variety of food, but also because we don't have good soil as well. We don't get good soil, so we don't get a good amount of minerals and vitamins in our food, but we want to be having great variety. Okay, so again, vitamin D treatment, this one looks at cystic fibrosis, which is a disease of the lungs, a terrible disease of the lungs. And COVID-19 has been shown to be very lung dominant, producing lots and lots of mucus and creating pain, etc. So vitamin D is definitely shown to improve immunity. And I recommend testing for vitamin D to all my patients, and we want to be trying to get up to around a number of around 60. If you look at the optimal ranges, we definitely want to be around 60, but the majority of people say, if you do a normal lab test, that maybe, 25 to 30 is okay, maybe a little bit more depending on which lab and which research you look at. But we found that the higher your vitamin D level is, the more immune function that you have. And just a note on different skin colors, if you are African American and you have darker skin or Hispanic, you're not going to be able to absorb as much vitamin D from the sun. So you definitely want to be checking your levels. And, for those of you that are Caucasian, you should be getting out in the sun, definitely about 15 minutes in sun exposure with no sunscreen on, with your arms out, your legs out. We're going to get you about 1,000 IUs in about 15 minutes. I'm definitely feeling like I need a tan right now. I'm getting there. So if you are in California like me, we've had a little bit better weather recently. So you want to be kind of getting out there. Not too much and getting sunburnt, of course, but it's definitely something where you should be trying to focus on. And of course, food. It's always food first. There's a lot you can do by changing diet. We don't have to have lots and lots of supplementation, although in this current time, it would be good to try and definitely boost your levels by supplementing, but we want to be thinking about food first. So like I said before, 90% of your immune system is around your digestive system. So just underneath the lining of your gut, we have lots of immune cells that sit there ready and waiting to, challenge any foreign invaders that come in. And sometimes we can see changes in immunity and these immunoglobulins that they call, these antibodies that everyone's talking about right now, because of certain foods that we could become sensitive to. We can test for that, and I've been testing for that for a while now, but we want to definitely think about digestive system as being the prime immune function. Now let's talk about processed foods. So high sugary diets actually shut off your natural killer cells activity for a number of hours. It's been shown in the research. So that person that eats poorly and always gets sick, majority of that could be because of their diet. They are not having good natural killer cell function. They're that sickly person, and we only have to really look at their diet and see that if they're not getting in all their brightly colored fruits and vegetables, they're not going to support that. And the worst foods really are these hydrogenated fats and the simple sugars like high fructose corn syrup, and the pro-inflammatory foods with very little fruit and veg. A lot of the enriched food items that we have that are stable on the shelf, that have long shelf lives, are really not good for us. It's not food, it's not real food at all. So stay away from the middle aisles of the supermarket, get to the outside, get the fruits, get the vegetables. Think of it like a single ingredient food. Think of it like, if it was made by nature, eat it. If it was made in a factory, do not. And you'll be pretty much set. We have to think about how much that can affect our immunity. Avoiding meals that make you tired and give you any symptoms. That's really an indicator that, you ate too much, or it was a high amount of sugar in that food. You'll get a crash afterwards once your pancreas decides that there's too much sugar in your blood and releases a bunch of insulin, which then brings your blood sugar back down. You feel tired, and then you get this spiking where you feel good, then you need to eat, and then you have a hypo. You don't feel good, you need to eat again. So we want stable blood sugar, so we want to be avoiding that tiredness. And then people sitting at home. Gosh, I've sat more, I think, in the last 6 weeks than I ever have done. And what are they eating? I know right now that people are eating more, myself included. But what are they eating? Are they eating good, nutritious food, or are they eating, Doritos and other things that taste good but are highly addictive and bad for us? So if you are doing that kind of thing, just at least try and think, okay, what am I going to do today that is nutritious for me? Yes, I've had my Doritos today, but what else can I eat maybe for lunch or dinner that could give me all these minerals and vitamins that we're talking about? And so increasing foods that have the flavonoids in them, so the different colors, the pigments, citrus and ginger and green tea and berries and apples have been shown to be really, really good. So think about those as snacks. Have an apple with almond butter as a snack instead of a pack of chips, and you're doing well. Diversity is important, like I said. We need different types of fruits and vegetables to increase the diversity of our gut microbiome. And our microbiome is basically our community of friendly bacteria in our gut. And we have different types that do different jobs and produce different types of fatty acids that nourish our gut. So when I do a stool test, for example, we'll look and see what is the friendly guys in there and what are the bad guys in there. So there will be commensal bacteria and there will be good bacteria that will be supporting our immune system. So we want to definitely make our gut microbiome nice and strong. So obesity, if we're looking here at this paper, it's the obese liver, and it's shown that a conversion of natural killer cells into less cytotoxic phenotype, which means that they're not as potent, they're not going to work as well when you are overweight or you have fatty liver disease. Unfortunately, that's the reality. And if we just look at a couple of statistics, CDC said that in 2017, 2018, 42% of America was overweight and obese, actually, technically obese. So 42%, that is a huge amount of people. And one thing that they have not alluded to and talked about is they've talked about people with chronic diseases being more at risk, but they haven't talked about how we can improve our health. A lot of it is drugs, a lot of it is politics, unfortunately, in food and big pharma. I'm a big believer in that. I'm not against medication at all. What I think that people should be doing is living an integrative lifestyle. If you need medication, great, but how can you support yourself so that you don't need medication? Or how can you improve your health so you can get off medication? Obesity is prevalent, 42%, and the majority of it comes from the food that we eat that isn't actual food. So again, it circles back round to what we're talking about trying to get those colorful foods in, boost your immunity, get your citrus fruits in, do everything that you need to do to reduce your weight and your fat. my clinic in Newport Beach, we do in-body testing, and we use the in-body, which is a bioelectrical impedance, which is electrical little electrical waves that go through your body that tell you how much muscle you have, how much fat you have, and then your visceral fat, so the fat around your organs. So if you're in the Newport Beach area and you want to work with me, come down when we reopen, not sure when, as of this date, April 29th, we are still not open. And then come down and we can look at what your levels are, and then see if we can try and improve that. It's really important, not just for COVID-19, but cancer, cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's disease, diabetes. They're up there in, you know, the hundreds of thousands, and we need to. This is something that we need to really, really focus on. So hydration, kind of out, super important. Now, I don't know if you know how much you have to drink every day, but it's really, really important to work on the communication of your immune system. If your mucous membranes are too viscous, you know, and they're not flowing very well, you're not going to have good immunity, especially when it comes to things like having a cold or a flu, or even, you know, COVID. We want to have those mucous membranes nice and fluid. You know, that's why they say drink lots of fluids when you're unwell. Well, we should be drinking lots of fluids anyway, all day. And let's see how much. So half your weight in pounds in ounces of fluid, so minimum. So if you weigh 150, you want to be drinking 75 ounces of fluid a day, preferably water. Okay, but you know, you can do things like salsa waters with natural added juices, no natural flavors, but natural added juices. Put something in there to make it more palatable if you don't like water, but aim for at least half of your body weight in ounces per day. If you're working out and exercising a lot, you may want to consider going up that to your full body weight in ounces per day. You lose a lot of fluid when you're obviously exercising through sweat and through respiration. So we want to be trying to increase that. Alcohol and caffeinated drinks dehydrate you. Now, I know you guys have been drinking more. I have patients who told me, of course they have. And, you know, it's the coffee in the morning and the 5 o'clock drinks, and in some cases much earlier. So if you are going to drink, just consider a few things. Alcohol definitely reduces your immunity, for sure. But it also dehydrates you, which is quite significant when it comes to immunity, and that's part of it. So if you're going to drink, ensure that you get hydrated. So for every drink that you have at least a glass of water, maybe another one, to try and keep that level up. I understand that people drink when they're stressed, and then they comfort eat when they're stressed, but it's something that we need to consider, and you need to be thinking about it from an immunity point of view. When the world opens up again, you know, where are we going to be? How is your immune system going to be when that happens? And, you know, if you feel thirsty, you're probably dehydrated. So you want to get ahead of that. Try not to feel thirsty, trying to think, gosh, I really need to eat, drink, and do it often. So have a hydration routine. You know, have a certain bottle of water. You know, I have like a 64-ounce one that I take to work, or I keep it going with me where I just can constantly sip on that all day. And I'll have other drinks around that, like herbal teas and stuff. This is the drink I was talking about. So when we're looking at immunity, and we looked at all the papers that we discussed before, like the flavonoids and the aloe vera, this is what you can probably do. If you get some aloe vera and you squeeze lemon into it, you squeeze lime into it, and you add some ginger juice to it and apple cider vinegar, that is going to be very gut nourishing for you, and immune boosting, because of all the things that we discussed earlier, like the flavonoids from the citrus fruits, the ginger, which is anti-inflammatory too, and then aloe vera juice, which is going to help with gut function. So you can, you know, sip it throughout the day. I just try and put a big jar of it together and put it in the fridge, and then just take, you know, 3 or 4 ounces often throughout the day to help you. It's alkalizing too, so that's going to help with immunity and just general health. Fasting is a subject that people are getting more to know, but maybe not know enough about to be able to actually choose to do it for themselves. So I would definitely do research or reach out to me to talk about fasting. There are definite benefits. It's good for some people, but not for others. And, there are certain determinations that we can make to decide whether you should decide to take on a fasting routine or not. What it is beneficial for is your free radicals are going to go down. So free radicals are these little fire bombs of damaging material that will go off and damage your cells. Free radicals come from many things: environmental, different types of processed foods, etc. And your free radicals will go down, so you're going to have less inflammation. And then on the upside to that, your antioxidant levels will go up. So we want to reduce oxidation of cells. These reactive oxygen species are these free radicals, which are damaging to DNA, in fact. And we want to increase antioxidants, and we can do that through fasting. We can also do that from eating lots and lots, again, you guessed it, fruits and vegetables that are highly colored. We want to be going for like 7 to 13 servings a day, really, of these things. And the majority of people don't hit that. So again, fasting can improve antioxidant levels. And then it can regenerate your immune system. You may have seen some things on social media like, I'm going to do a 3-day fast and that's going to completely replenish my white blood cells. There's some evidence to suggest that that's going to help, yes. But we don't want to be saying, I'm going to do a 48-hour, 72-hour fast because, there are going to be some certain issues with that people may not even recover from and actually get worse. So if you have hypoglycemia or you have uncontrolled blood sugar, you should absolutely not fast. There are some improvements to blood sugar with fasting, but you have to do it in a very controlled environment and you have to start really slow. So the best thing to do would be to compress your feeding times. For example, is intermittent fasting, which is what we kind of know of this. And the majority of us eat for too long during the day. And, we start in the morning at 7 a.m. We continue to eat. We get home late from work. We continue to eat in the evening while we're watching TV. And then before we know it, we only have 7 or 8 hours where we're not eating. And we want to be trying to almost reverse that to eating only for maybe 8 hours and then the rest be in a fasted state. But you have to build up to that. You cannot go straight and say, right, I'm going to do 16 hours of fasting and then I'm going to do 8, because the majority of people can have a problem with it, particularly women, and especially have like thyroid problems as well. You want to be very cautious of fasting and get your bloods done before you do. So it will increase the number of monocytes, which is another white blood cell, in healthy humans and in mice. And, fasting will help to improve your metabolism and reduce inflammation. We want to basically talk about this in more depth if you have an interest in it, and let me know if you do. Exercise, favorite. Okay, so when we exercise, we move our blood and our lymph. Lymph is where a lot of our immune cells sit, in our glands. We want to be moving that around. And then movement is excellent for immune cytokine communication. And all that means is it's going to help to get the white blood cells to mobilize quicker and improve their function. An increase in opioid production has a direct effect on the immune system. So that basically means it makes you happy. It gives you that endorphins, actually is an anandamide that it gives you, that feel good, that runner's high. And that can really improve immunity. Exercise also increases oxidants, but it has a massive surge in antioxidants. So we do get oxidation or like rusting after exercise. We have a definite period of increased oxidation where we can get, you know, damage of cells, if you like, but then we'll get this surge of antioxidants, which is incredibly good for us, because we've already talked about how that can improve our immunity. So antioxidants will help to neutralize those free radicals, those damaging little firebombs that I talked about. So it's going to be anti-aging too. Now, if you're ill, should you exercise? Now, that may be an obvious answer for most of you, but for some people not. And they will exercise through feeling ill. And, you know, if you're run down and you're not feeling great, I definitely encourage you not to exercise. Fine, go out for a short walk if that's what you need to do. But I wouldn't be doing anything higher level than that. You know, and how much should you do? We don't want to be over exercising. We don't want to be depleting our energy stores so significantly that we're fatigued and we're sore all the time. So just keep it nice and moderate. Definitely do your exercises, lift your weights, but keep it moderate. And start slowly. If you're not an exerciser, we want to just get out and start walking, really. Obviously getting out in nature and being out in the sunshine and hearing the birds is really good for all of you. And if you have the opportunity to do that where you are, then please do it. Start with just a few minutes up and down the garden if you're not used to exercising or walking at all. And you know, you'll be surprised how quickly you will improve. Even my elderly patients improve massively in just a number of weeks. When they do things consistently, and it can change your life. So please just get out there and do whatever moderate level that you can do. Do not over exercise, and definitely don't do nothing. And then finally, on your athletes, again, I see a lot of athletes in the gym that I work at with the clinic that I see patients at for their functional medicine programs. And, you know, we don't want to be over exercising. We have seen relationships with athletes increasing their activity and training for events actually reduce their immune function. So please don't over exercise. If you are an exerciser, this is not your time to try and do as much as you possibly can. Definitely, if you have a certain goal in mind, continue to work towards that, but please don't overdo it. So there is definitely a compelling link between physical activity and defense. And we want to be encouraging in that. And we have seen that acute exercise is an immune system function. It will improve that, and it will improve your overall metabolic health. Also data here to show a clear inverse relationship between moderate exercise training and illness risk. So again, I have seen clients that are athletes that will have a higher illness risk prior to a competition because they have a period of intensified training. So consider trying to still sleep and recover really well if you're doing more intense training, or you're working out for a competition or something that's coming up. Consider the sleep. Think about the fact that you'll burn through your minerals and vitamins much quicker than the next person who is not training at that high intensity. Make sure you have a high protein intake so you're supporting your lean muscle mass, which again is good for immune function. Emotional states. The biggest one, I think, right now, the clients that I'm seeing online, we're emotional, you know, myself included. There's a lot going on now. There's a lot of uncertainty right now. And, you know, please reach out to me if you're having issues and you want to even just talk about it. I'm here for you. And, you know, emotion has a huge effect on our immune system. So this fear and the doubt that we have, the anxiety that we have, has all negative effects on our immune system. And we definitely want to be trying to support that as much as possible. Please stay away from the news. I don't care if you're Fox or ABC or CNBC or any of the above. It's not good for you. There is a lot of conflicting information. And remember, a lot of these news channels will report things that are going to get viewers. So it has to be dramatic. It has to be different. It has to be constant. And if you want proper information, then go to the CDC website. It will give you a ton of information on there about lots of different types of things, and definitely the most up-to-date information on the COVID-19. So try not to do that. Check in, look for state things, look for local mandates, but please stay away from the incessant drawl of news. Laughing, yes, love to laugh. And this has a direct effect on your opioid production and therefore your immune system. So that feel good is really, really good for you. And I like to inject a little bit of humor into some of the things that I do because it helps people to relax. But, you know, immunity is definitely improved by laughing. And they say laughter is the best medicine. So, you know, do things to make you laugh. It will help to prime your T cells and your T regulatory cells and those natural killer cells that we talked about before. So however you do it, you know, if you have a funny person in your life, call them up, get them to tell you some jokes, watch some funny movies, go on YouTube. There's a plethora of stuff on there. And for all those adults who are just joining TikTok, plenty of information out there to make you laugh. The opposite, crying, also has a positive effect on your immune system. You know, we have a lot of pent-up emotion. We have lots of things that build up. A lot of people don't talk about things that they need to. A lot of people don't face things that they need to. And crying does have a positive effect on your immune system. So if you're upset, let it out. If you have a partner who listens to you and you can let it out, then do that. It's been shown to definitely improve. And you've probably all been there where, you know, you've got something that's on your mind that's really upsetting, and, you know, finally you have a good cry, you let it all out and you feel better. So I know that there's people out there that are crying right now. I know you're emotional, and my heart goes out to you. And we are all having a tough time right now. You know, maybe not all day, but definitely some of the day. And it's very normal to go through all these different emotions throughout the day. So it's normal, okay? Again, this looks at immune system and happiness. And, you know, it's definitely been shown that it does improve autoimmunity, cardiovascular disease, HIV, and cancer. We have this physiological response to pleasant stimuli. They looked at the endocrine system, and they did things like pleasant odors and emotional pictures and presented them to people. And then they revealed that had an increased secretory IgA, which is an antigen in your gut, which helps with immunity. And then also a decrease in salivary cortisol. And that is a stress hormone. So it's shown to even reduce with looking at pictures and having pleasant smells. So, you know, get some old photos out, have a laugh. We've seen some stuff on social media of like old pictures and stuff like that. Let's just keep that going. So let's talk about immune tolerance and versus resilience. Well, we want resilience, don't we? So when we have inflammation in our body, we have a normal immune response that will happen to, you know, cuts and bruises and viruses and infections and bacteria. That's when our immune system is strong and resilient and we can cope with it. As we get less resilient and we have less tolerance, our immune system will start to react to things like foods. So any of you who have food sensitivities out there, there is some suggestion that when you start to respond to foods, that your immune system is basically compromised. So things like elimination diets, where we get rid of things like corn, wheat, dairy, soy, alcohol, caffeine, are hugely revealing when it comes to immunity, because when you can identify food sensitivities and then heal your gut, you're going to be coming lower down on the scale, where you're going to be having normal immune responses to certain things like viruses, bacteria, etc. So elimination diet, detoxification, where you're trying to heal the gut and get things strong, is super important. When you start to respond to foods, that's an indication that things aren't quite going as they should. And then, you know, you see response to chemicals. So people don't like odors. They find that they're sensitive to certain perfumes, to like gasoline smells and things like that. And that's where we get more oxidative stress in the body. And then become affected into autoimmunity, where the body will start to overreact and continue to overreact. And then, unfortunately, those branches of the military, those white blood cells, will start to attack our own tissues. So we see that in things for autoimmunity like Hashimoto's disease and things like that, rheumatoid arthritis, etc. So think about where you are on this scale. Have you got any food sensitivities? Are there things that just don't agree with you anymore? If that's the case, really you want to be looking at trying to stop that from leading you further down this scale. And you know, we can do that with things like elimination diet, with detoxification programs. I will be putting something out in the future where we're going to try and get some people to do a community immunity program together, a detoxification program together, to try and really bring them back down to the right end of the scale. So watch out for that. Let me know if you have any interest. Autoimmunity and inflammation. People with autoimmune disease can have high white blood cells or low. And then it's definitely related to inflammation and oxidative stress, just like in the last slide. First steps, like we said, look at triggers, look at daily aggravators of inflammation, look at the foods that you're eating. And then start with the gut. I'll say it again. I'll say it again. Gut is definitely the place to start when it comes to autoimmunity, and I've had some great results with people by just even putting them through an elimination diet. Sleep, hydration, and exercise is really, really important. And we want to be trying to improve that. And sleeping for more than 7 to 9 hours is really optimal. So we're just going to go through a quick summary right here, where we want to be trying to work on 7 to 9 hours, thinking about trying to work on white noise and looking at gravity cooling blankets, blue light blocking glasses, which can really, really help to get the blue light out of the brain. And then trying to not eat more than 3 hours before bed, trying to think about that hypoglycemia and not getting hypoglycemic so that you're going to be waking up. Looking at supplements and vitamin A and C and D. These are the best forms for immunity, but again, try not to overdo it. And if you're unsure, then please let me know. And it's best to measure your vitamin D levels. So please look at that with your physician. Try and look at your vitamin D levels. You want to be up at around 60. And again, we can look at normal blood values if you come to see me. Looking at foods again, we want to be eating a variety of fruits and vegetables for this gut biome diversity, and stay away from sugary and hydrogenated canned processed foods and inflammatory foods. Staying well hydrated is super important, as we discussed, and looking at transport systems and your fluid so that it has lower viscosity, making sure that you keep hydrated, don't feel thirsty, and make sure that you avoid these caffeinated and alcoholic drinks if you can. And like I said, if you're going to do that, try and drink, 1 glass of water per drink. Fasting is good, but you want to start slowly and build up over time so that you don't overstress your system. And of course, exercise is vital to boost antioxidant levels, move your lymph, and boost your immune system. But again, don't overdo it. Start easy. Make sure you feel energized afterwards, and just try and move as much as possible. Like I said, your emotional state is very important for a healthy immune system. Avoiding negativity and anxiety, trying to get less fearful situations, and embrace laughing and good feeling situations. Super important to talk to your family and your friends and get that communication going and that social interaction. We are physical distancing, we're not socially distancing. So please reach out to people. They need you, okay? If your immune tolerance is already compromised, then double up on all of those good foods and those vitamins and supplementation like we discussed. And then reach out to me if you have any questions. I am here, I'm in Newport Beach, California, but of course I do online consultations too. I've seen many patients over the internet and much more recently. So please reach out if you have a particular issue that you want to talk about. If you're interested also in going through a detoxification program or an elimination diet, which is going to really be the first steps, then please reach out. And then there are supplementations that I'm going to list and have listed before that will help. So I have some good links to those. So please just let me know if you're interested in finding out what they are. Designs for Health and Metagenics are the ones that I use mostly. And I'm super excited to help you guys. I really hope that you've enjoyed this webinar, and just some simple tips that you may have heard of, but just to let you know that I'm here for you if and when you need me. So let's finish right here. And I will say good night to you guys, and see you soon.